What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we are going to be showcasing a brand new exotic catalyst that was just added into Destiny 2 with the launch of episode Heresy. And guys, when you get this catalyst and apply it to its respective exotic, you are going to have one of the best DPS options in the entire game. And I never thought I'd be saying this, but the exotic in question, the DPS monster, is the Queenbreaker Exotic Heavy Linear Fusion Rifle. Relegated to the Collections tab or the Vault for years, it is finally having its time to shine, and so let's get started. Now, first of all, guys, with the dungeon launching tomorrow at the time I'm recording this, if you can acquire this catalyst right now and before the dungeon, that would be extremely useful. And don't worry, I have an incredibly cheesy strategy that will let any solo player get their hands on this and frankly any exotic catalyst in the game. So here's what you do. You simply load into a private match, and specifically, you select Collision as the game mode, the burnout as the map, and then the match score limit you put as low as possible at 5. Now what this lets you do is you load in, you capture the flag by yourself, and then once you do, as you can see, it just completes the match, and every match completion has a chance to drop the exotic catalyst. So this is just going to be way easier than farming strikes, for example, over and over again. You're going to be able to absolutely speed run through so many match completions incredibly fast, and again, it is a great way to farm any exotic catalyst in the game. Now, once you eventually get this exotic catalyst, you will need to get a bunch of kills with the Queenbreaker in order to level it up and equip this exotic catalyst. And the best way to do that is simply go to Shirochi, as you can see, and start farming ads. Now, importantly, if you can get there as a hunter, you can actually use your Night Stalker tether, and you can combine that with like the Orpheus rigs, stuff to get your super back, because what this lets you do is that you tether a bunch of enemies, you shoot one Thrall with the Queenbreaker, and then all the Thrall, because they share damage, are all gonna die, and that all counts as Queenbreaker kills. It's just gonna let you get this done much faster. And eventually, when you do get enough kills, you are going to unlock the ability to equip this exotic catalyst. So, what the heck does this exotic catalyst actually do? Well, I'm gonna tell you, but I'm gonna give you a warning, guys. This is only one piece of the puzzle. What this catalyst does is, as you can see right here, it gives the Queenbreaker rewind rounds. And what this is going to do is that when you get to the bottom of your magazine, it will refill a portion of that magazine, about half your magazine, based on the number of precision hits. And then when that half gets down, it's going to refill half of that. So it's going to refill your magazine multiple times. It's essentially going to massively increase your magazine size. Like it says 5 rounds in a mag, it's more realistically around 10. But again, this is not the only thing that is making the Queenbreaker have insane DPS, because with the start of episode Heresy, Bungie also completely reworked the Queenbreaker. So this is not the old Queenbreaker that suddenly gets rewind rounds. This is essentially a completely different exotic weapon that can also get a catalyst that provides rewind rounds. So let's go over what exactly the Queenbreaker is doing in-game right now after the rework. So, at a base level, the Queenbreaker is still about having those 2 different sights that will drastically change the behavior of this weapon, but the intrinsic trait changed so that now, as you can see right here, you can hold reload and swap between these 2 different sights on the fly. But you can still select which sight you want in the actual Queenbreaker menu, and this is important because essentially you can have it on, let's say, marksman sights, the close range sights, and then you can swap it in-game to the long zoom sights, but if you die, it will reload you with whatever you selected in the menu, so just keep that in mind. Now, as for the sights themselves, the first one is that marksman's sight. Now, what this says is that long-range sights with slower charge time and greater damage fire a single bolt that chains to nearby targets and blinds them on hit, and it displays ammo and charge levels. Then the other sight is going to be combat sights. So these are low zoom sights with faster charge time and handling. Now it fires a 3-round burst that reduces charge time even further on sustained hits and displays ability energy. Now, after that, you can also choose between hipfire grip and quick draw. Neither are going to make a big difference, but in terms of that DPS, the main thing here is those combat sights having that 3-round burst that is also going to improve the charge time. So think about all those things combined. You now basically turn the Queenbreaker into an aggressive frame linear, which are going to do a ton of damage, guys. Then you add in a catalyst that is going to massively improve the magazine size, refill the magazine when it gets empty as long as you're landing hits. And then as you're landing those hits, the combat scope is also going to make the Queenbreaker have a faster and faster charge rate. And you can see that culminate here against Atheon. Like, this thing absolutely cranks on the combat sight mode, especially with that new catalyst just massively. You can just go the entire damage phase without having to reload almost, and then you're going to be cranking out really fast shooting, really hard hitting rounds of the Queenbreaker. So that is the DPS mode, combat sights with that new catalyst. But the top marksman sight is also worth talking about. This is actually my preferred sight to run when I'm not doing boss DPS, because oh my goodness, the chain effect is actually crazy. You can see it here in this strike. Like, every single shot is essentially killing the same amount of enemies as like a rocket launcher would. It just nukes all nearby enemies. And so because both of these sights, both of these modes are actually really good and each has their own potential, right? Like the marksman sight, honestly better for ad clearing than the combat scope, way better for DPS. Now that you actually have two useful, relevant modes of this weapon, the fact that you can, because of the intrinsic, change it on the fly actually matters quite a bit. And that's why I was saying, like, hey, try to get this catalyst like ready to go for the dungeon. This could really see a ton of play within that brand new dungeon, again, that launches tomorrow, because, well, if you have a dungeon boss, you have the DPS mode, but if you are using it in an encounter, you're doing a boss fight, for example, that has a bunch of stuff to activate before you get to the boss, well, then you can be using it in the marksman sight mode and absolutely nuking ads with it, and then when you get to the boss, just hot swap to the combat sights and then nuke the boss. Like, it's going to be relevant pretty much everywhere, especially because of all, as if all that wasn't good enough, guys, linear fusion rifles are featured this season. As you can see right here, not only do they have unstopped champion rounds, but in the very final column, you do have particle reconstruction, where dealing sustained damage with fusion rifles or linear fusion rifles partially refills the magazine from reserves and grants them a damage bonus for a short duration. That is crazy. So every single linear fusion rifle in the game has just gotten a lot better because of particle reconstruction. And the Queenbreaker is, I mean, right now, arguably one of, if not the best heavy linears in the entire game. So, yeah, it's going to be absolutely cooking with particle reconstruction this season. So definitely one of the most desirable exotic catalysts to get right now. And combined with that rework, it's finally time to take the Queenbreaker out of the vault, out of your collections. Man, what an upgrade. Guys, that is going to be it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.